Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the World Class Championship Wrestling Review Series. We move into the midpoint of June 1987. Rock and Roll RPMs against Steve Simpson and Steve Dahl, the team of the Steves. RPMs are former tag team champions, now managed by Percy Pringle. Dahl is relatively new to at least the area, if not the sport. Very basic match here. Simpson still could have been used. I don't know if I want to say better, but differently by this point. Lots of athleticism there. Early body slam and tag off to Steve Dahl. Dahl gets some good ring experience here. Dahl ends up being a mainstay in the Southern wrestling territories, Tennessee and the like. He does end up going to the WWF for a short run in the mid 90s as well. Anyhow, again, take over several minutes on the headlock by Simpson and clotheslines and a cross body there. We then see one half of the RPMs retreating, tag off, and then Simpson still maintains control. 1, 2, 3 with a modified roll up and a pull of the trunks. RPMs get your victory. Then we move to an enhancement match for Al Perez. Al Perez and Perry Jackson is your next contest here. Obviously, Perez is a highlighted guy. He ends up getting a major push in the next couple of months. But here the idea is to give him as much of a rub as you can. Take down, working the leg early. It's really simple stuff, heel-related stuff. Gary Hart impressed with his man on the outside. We then see him kind of, again, working the leg. Works the midsection a little bit, and Perez ends up getting a victory in quick order with the spinning toe hold, which for Texas is a main move because of the funks. Kerry Von Erich spends the next several minutes talking rather incoherently about his hobby of photography. I mention he talks incoherently because both Mike and David have passed away, and yet he talks about them a couple of times in a 5-minute segment as though they're still alive. Talks about his love of photography, how he takes the camera everywhere in the world, etc. and so forth. Then we move to another interview. I mentioned last week, or in the last episode, that the nature of World Class is changing to a more vignette, interview-heavy style. I don't think they have as many wrestlers here, and so that's there. Next segment is completely skippable as Fritz Von Erich details the history of World Class Championship Wrestling, but if you have been following along here in our nearly 275-ish episodic television reviews, you know the history of World Class, so it's kind of irrelevant. Len Denton and Al Madrill out next. I think though this is the time they are considering going national. I think that's what this is about. Madrill and Len Denton known as the Grappler. I don't know that I've ever seen Denton outside of here in non-grappler get-up garb, so that's kind of fun and interesting. Madrill ends up, going more the brawler's route, now a babyface, though. Interesting that he was here when we started the journey in 82, and he's here again in 87. Just interesting how things come full circle in wrestling. Kicks and punches and a clothesline by Denton. Denton actually owns more of the match than one would expect for Madrill's position on the card. Madrill works over the legs and gets a few backdrops and the like. Anyway, Madrill manages to gain a victory, and that moves him closer to the nature of things. We see Kevin Von Erich visiting Japan. There is a guy who cuts a promo in Japanese about how much the Von Erichs are influential in Japan. Eric Emery and Boy Tony, otherwise known as the Boy George knockoff, is your main event. Very far in the way that things have fallen. Eric Emery smoking a cigar in the middle of the arena. I've never understood guys who smoke and then work. But hey, whatever. Tag team champions, the Fantastics, are here. Of course, Fulton and Rogers. Um, the Fantastics work over Boy Tony early. Rogers comes in, hits some drop kicks, arm drags, and the like. And we see the match break down into a little bit of chaos. Tag off to Emery and back to Rogers being the main guy. He takes over on him for a little bit. Boy Tony comes back in the ring. Emery, with the pull down the top rope spot, gets an advantage for his team. And Boy Tony takes over on Tommy Rogers for a few minutes. I don't think there's ever a point where people believed that Boy Tony and Eric Emery would be your tag team champions. But they tried their best, and I think for a little bit you might have believed it was possible, but not very probable. All four men in the ring, drop kick off by Tommy Rogers, and a roll up of Boy Tony by Bobby Fulton gets the victory for the tag team champions. Then we move forward to respective promos. Talking about the hatred that Al Madril has, both in English and in Spanish, for Brian Adias. Adias makes some racial comments towards Madril, and they basically are going to square off in the weeks to come. In any event, that is your July 13th edition, or June 13th edition of World Class, and we'll be back with more right after this.